The Subaru WRX STI and Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. These rally rivals have been duking it out for nearly 2 decades. And I can't think of 2 cars that are more similar and yet so different. But which one is better? This has got to be one of the most hotly debated topics on the internet. If you Google the very title of this video, you'll find countless forum posts and video clips from people arguing about which one is better.
Yeah, and this is £6,000 less than that.
Yeah, but the Subaru is £7,000 less than that.
Both cars are brilliant. They're fantastic cars to own. And yet,
It's impossible to choose between these 2 cars. There's no tangible reason why you'd take one rather than the other.
Top Gear has made comparison videos between these 2 cars at least 4 different times over the years. It keeps getting brought up, and it keeps getting debated. So let me give you my thoughts in this video. I've been wanting to make this video for years now, since Subaru versus Mitsubishi has been a theme on this channel since its inception. But I've always felt like I was a little biased towards Subarus since that's the car that I've generally owned. But about 6 months ago, I bought this EVO, and ever since then I've been modifying it and tinkering with it. And I've been around both of these cars for nearly a decade. So I think it's time to compare these 2 sweet sedans and talk about the differences. These 2 cars are nearly identical on paper, and yet they're so different to drive and to own. It's bizarre. Both cars make about 300 horsepower from the factory. They're both all-wheel drive sedans, they both have big wings, and they both have a computerized diff control. They both have roughly the same 0 to 60 times, the same top speed times, they both get an abysmal fuel economy, and shoot, even the latest generations kinda look the same.
Introducing the Subaru EVO 10, because it has a very similar front end to the EVO 10 from Mitsubishi.
So you'd think that this comparison would be over nitpicking things and small differences. After all, it's a hotly debated topic because these cars are so similar. But I can say from being around these cars so often that the differences are actually much more extreme. The difference really shows when you're behind the wheel. EVOs are aggressive, they're always angry, even if you're just putting around in traffic. The power band is peaky, the clutch pedal is stiff, and the exhaust is loud. But the STI is more comfortable. It has more amenities. It's newer since they made them for longer. And it's also more quiet, if some schmuck hasn't put a straight pipe on it anyway. But that's not where the differences end. They both also feel much different on track. The EVO has a drastically different weight balance than the STI, with most of its weight more forward. This gives the handling characteristics a much different feel. The power band is also different, with the STI having a much larger displacement, but generally a smaller size turbo. The STI has more grunt coming out of a corner or if you accidentally short shift it, while the EVO feels more vicious as it heads to red light. And we can't forget about the reliability aspect. I see more Subarus broken at the track than I do EVOs. But maybe that's because more people own Subarus since they made almost 10 times as many. Okay, let's cut to the chase. Let's walk through a few of the aspects that make these 2 cars different, and then you can decide which one you think is better in each category. It depends on which year and which trim level and which special edition model you get, but generally speaking, the EVO will take the edge over the STI in the smallest margin possible. The EVO is also cheaper to mod per horsepower. You can argue with me all you want about that, but I've seen it countless times. It's way cheaper to make 400 horsepower in an EVO than it is in a Subaru. EVO's engines also have a bit of a higher power ceiling before they fail, but EVO drivetrains are weaker than STI's, especially the 6-speed EVOs. Pick your poison. I've always thought that a 4G63 with a Subaru 6-speed would be an amazing combo. I think EVO 8s and 9s look better than almost any STI. That's just my opinion. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I think the 2015 STIs look better than the EVO 10s. Both cars can look great, and this really just comes down to preference. Now is the part in the video where everybody can go and comment about ring len failure and head gaskets. Yes, that's a common known problem with Subarus, but I will say that I've never once had a head gasket failure on a Subaru, but I have with an EVO. That probably had more to do with the 700 wheel horsepower and 33 PSI that I was pushing through though. These reliability arguments can turn a normal conversation into a screaming match real quick. Everyone will bring up their personal experiences that they've had with either car and say that's why their choice is best. We often rationalize choices that we've already made. I think both cars can be equally unreliable when they're modified. I also think that both cars can be equally unreliable if they're not taken care of. My STI blew its stock motor with pretty low miles, but upon further investigation, we found that the motor had already been messed with before and it wasn't taken very well care of. After modifying my STI and taking it on the Florida to Alaska road trip, it had another failure with a turbo oil line leaking. But guess what? When I bought my EVO 10, the first issue that I had was the exact same thing. So this car is broken upon receiving it, which I knew about. The owner said it was leaking a little bit and he wasn't really sure where it was leaking. I just wanna, for the record, it's the oil drain line on an EVO, not on an STI, but on an EVO this time. It's not an STI thing. Happens to EVOs too.
I think it just happens to you.
I also had to fix a leak in the transmission seal on that car. We like to make fun of Subaru failures because it seems to happen a lot, but let me remind you that they made 10 times more STIs than they did EVOs. I've seen plenty of failures on EVOs as well. I think the reliability argument is pretty arbitrary. Any car will be unreliable if it's not taken care of. Maybe Subarus are less taken care of than EVOs. Who knows? That's an argument that you can have in the comments. I think Subarus are more comfortable. Picking any year STI and comparing it with the similar year EVO, and the STI will be more comfortable every time. Not by a large margin, but they are slightly quieter and smoother. They also have slightly more amenities. This is probably also the reason that the STI feels a little more dull than the EVO. The EVO feels tack sharp to drive, at the cost of some comfort. The EVO is also a little more fatiguing to drive, while the STI could go all day long in traffic and not really be too much trouble. The Subaru aftermarket world knows no bounds. It's depthless. It's like Mary Poppins' magic bag. Want to change the knobs on your rear seat releases? We got you. How about a cover for your door hinges? Yup. Want some fog lights? Here's a few hundred options to choose from. Meanwhile, in the EVO community, everybody knows that one guy that's got that special part. Sure, there's still options for almost everything you'd want, but it doesn't seem to go quite as deep as the Subaru world does. I literally cannot believe some of the aftermarket items that are made for Subarus. Okay, Subaru owners are all in a cult. You see another STI on the road and you have to wave. Subaru's marketing is built around this. They have ownership badges and manufacturer-supported meetups. EVO guys are in a cult as well, but it's a much smaller and tighter group. They're rare. If you see another EVO, you're instantly friends with each other because you've both chosen against the Subaru. There's also a lot of overgeneralizations out there for both of these cars. I think most people that don't have either car will say that the STI is for vape kids and they just blow ringlands, while the EVO is the cooler car, but maybe more for tech nerds. Obviously, it goes without saying, but neither car is better, they're just different. I think the EVO is probably a better track car, and the STI is a better street car. The EVO drives better, but it compromises comfort. At the end of the day, both cars are fantastic. It all just depends on what you're looking for. Do you want aggression compromising comfort, or comfort compromising aggression?
The only thing I will say is that when we'd finished filming and I just had to drive back to the hotel, I always found myself getting into the Subaru.
Know exactly what you mean. Couldn't tell you why. I prefer the Impreza. Always have. No idea why.
It's like, you know, I prefer dark chocolate to milk chocolate.
Yeah.
I prefer Bedford to Bruce Forsyth.
Right.